Hey guys, Elizabeth here. I hope you're doing well and you're having a great day so far. Today, I'm going to be talking about the top lessons that I've learned out of my thousands of hours of research and reading so many books and articles and podcasts from financial experts and people who have achieved wealth, who have owned businesses and achieved freedom. And so I hope these tips are helpful and I will start sharing them now. All right, so number one, you have to pay yourself first and treat it like a bill. So even if you don't have a lot of money right now, you want to start the habit of paying yourself first. So instead of getting all this money in your account or even a little bit of money and then spending it, you want to pay yourself, even if it's $5, $10. Start that habit now. If you can invest it, that is great as well. That's going to pay even more dividends and compound and grow over time. But at least you want to start paying yourself first. You are the bill that is the most important, and so pay yourself first. Number two, get books and start reading, start getting educated. One of the first books I read that I really recommend for men or women is Smart Women Finish Rich. And so Smart Women Finish Rich was an essential book. It really goes over everything and how to invest and how to prepare for your death and how to make more money. And I really, really like that book. I also like Think and Grow Rich for mindset and starting to shift your subconscious mind and start shifting into these belief systems and getting rid of fear and things that are in the way. And it gives you practical tools. And so some people think it's kind of a woo-woo book, but honestly, it's like a financial Bible in my opinion. And I really, really loved it. Also get books that expand your thinking. So I think the Smart Women Finish Rich is a really practical guide, but then there's other people like Ramit Sethi's I Will Teach You to Be Rich. There's The Psychology of Money. There is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. There is The 4-Hour Work Week. There are so many different books out there, and I could put a list or some on the screen that I highly recommend. And so just see if there's a book that's interesting to you or a topic if you want to start a business, if you want to start investing, or if you want to buy assets or whatever you want to do, passive income, and look into it. Just start reading about it or listening, finding YouTube videos or podcasts, and just get the information so you can act on it. Number three, compound interest is incredible. It's the eighth wonder of the world. And so over time, you want to make sure you're investing because eventually that little bit of money you invest every month will eventually skyrocket because of that compound effect, and it doubles and doubles and doubles and doubles until you're making so much money. What it needs though is time. And so the earlier you start, the better. Even if it's not a ton of money at first, the more time that you have, the more time it has to compound. And that's why one reason Warren Buffett is so successful, because he not only had his companies and investments and stuff, but he invested for a long period of time. And so it had more time to compound. So really, really look into this. Don't be afraid of investing. Figure out how to get started ASAP. Number four, you have to invest. I think it's critical for success and for building wealth, but you don't have to invest in anything crazy. And so I think that really kept me from investing for so long because I'm like, I don't know what to do. And back in the day, I wasn't on my phone as much with the internet and researching some of these things or even getting the books like I talked about. And so I just didn't think about that. It was more about people that I know, like, hey, you should talk to this person about it. And I'm like, I don't know. And that feels uncomfortable to me. So all you have to do is go for low cost index funds. Honestly, this is critical. You can do target date index funds. I could do a video on this, or even just Google it. What are some low cost index funds that experts recommend, and then invest in those. Number five, get started. Seriously, the earlier you start investing or you start saving or you start learning about these things, the more time that you have to have things compound, the more time that you have to save, the more time that you have to learn. Maybe you start a business when you're young. Maybe you start learning some high income skills, and maybe you start taking risks earlier before you have a family and before you have other responsibilities or before just life's already gotten ahead of you, and you can make changes anytime. But the earlier you start, the better in so many ways. And you can start building that foundation early. It's critical. And so I do talk a lot about on this channel about helping your kids. And so you can give them a head start by starting to talk about things and exposing them to this information ASAP. Number six, work on your mindset and your view of money. So The Psychology of Money is an excellent book if you want to do this and to understand your own psychology around money or why you're spending money on things or why you're not, etc. But you really need to see, how do you think about money? Do you think, were you told money doesn't grow on trees? Do you believe that, oh, I can't afford that? Most rich people think, how can they afford that? Not, oh, I can't. And so you really need to start thinking about, what are those thoughts that you have around money? Do you have some limiting beliefs? Do you think it's abundant? There's so much money in the world, guys. So you really need to think that you can grab that money if you're willing to put value out into the world, if you're willing to learn the skills, act on your skills, and to find it. It's there, so find it. And so work on those beliefs that you have and start seeing how you think about money so you can either go for it and keep doing the things you're doing or change it. Number 7, don't be afraid to get a financial advisor. So typically you want to make sure that the commission is under 1%. I know Vanguard has one that I think it's like 0.35%, so it's really good. I know my husband and I started with that. We might fire them eventually or stop using their services, might be a better way to say that. But honestly, it's better just to get started. So if you need that support and you don't feel like you could do it on your own, feel free to do that. Number 8, so I kind of hate to say this, but I also want to say this, is if you're going to school or if you're thinking about what job you want to do, try to think about how much money you will make or if there's opportunities in that career field. And so hopefully you enjoy it too. Some people like to say you could do a job that makes a lot of money and then it'll fund your family and your lifestyle, but you have to be careful with that because maybe you'll be stuck in your job and you'll never get to actually enjoy your life. So if you're miserable in your job, it is something to think about, but hopefully start researching. There's so many different jobs out there that you wouldn't even know about. That's not just like doctor, lawyer, like there's so many more jobs. And so start researching and start really identifying the things you enjoy or the skills you have or the skills you want to learn that can actually pay more money. I do think this is important. I do think you should follow things that you're interested but I also think there is power in money. And if you're going to invest in a college education, it is the skill that you're learning, and so you want to learn a good skill, but a benefit of college too is being around connections. So if you are in college or you haven't gone to school yet, start networking in college. That can really, really help you. It's not just about your degree. Number 9, always take advantage of tax advantage accounts and employer offerings. So if you're at a job, typically HR will try to set you up with your 401k and things. Definitely get educated on this. I have videos on my channel, but not just your 401k. It can be overwhelming with the options that you have, but really try to take a minute to think about it, talk to other people that have wealth or that have used their employer accounts well, because maybe the people in your life, they maybe don't know all of the options. So be careful who you ask, but make sure you're thinking about that. You're getting their employer match. You are taking advantage of the free money that they give to you, and the free money too is with taxes. So if you have to pay less on your taxes by putting money in these investment accounts that are in work, but also outside of work, you're not going to have to pay as much at the end of the year or throughout the year to the IRS. So these are really important things to learn about. And I wish that I would have learned about more of the options earlier. Next is to stay out of debt if you can. If your parents will let you, if you can find roommates, stay with people as long as you can. Combine with roommates and try to get that cost of living down. See if you can stay with someone. See if you can live with your parents a little bit longer. Do things to help get your costs of living low so that you can stay out of debt. Maybe you have a good job and you can live on your own. That's fine. But figure out what you need to do to live debt free. This really can put a big wrench into people's lives, into things. And I've seen it with a lot of people that I know, and I feel really fortunate to not be in that situation. At least I feel very grateful, but you really want to figure out how to stay out of debt. And so maybe it takes a few more years. That's okay. Figure out what you need to do and don't get the credit cards and just start racking them up. Don't feel like you need to go buy everything just because everyone else does. Really work on yourself as a person and that you don't need to buy these things to make you feel good or to fit in or be like everybody else. Like, it's not worth it. It's not worth going into debt. I will say too, if you're a young couple, even on a wedding, even on wedding rings, stuff like that, I wish I would have thought about this more critically. Like, you can use the money for a wedding for a down payment on a house. You can use the money to buy assets. You could buy multiple houses. You could buy a duplex. You could do so many to invest in yourself and in a business that you have. With a wedding ring, like, it's just a ring. You don't need this big fancy diamond. Like, I didn't necessarily think about this when I was younger, but I wish I had, because that's more aligned with my values. I don't need all this fancy stuff or spend all this money. I'd rather put it into something that can help my life. So that's a tip too. If you're young, start thinking about that. By all means, if you want the fancy wedding, if you want that, go for it. But it's up to you. There's so many options out there. Number 11, be willing to sacrifice. So part of the reason that my husband and I have been able to build a pretty substantial amount of wealth, and I'm 29 right now, and we've been teachers, and I also wasn't sure what I was doing for a little while, etc., is because of the sacrifices that we've made and that we haven't been buying all these extravagant things or doing what everybody else has done. We're working on our financial foundation. Yes, we have a lot of work to do. I want to have businesses. I want to make more money. I want to have more investments and assets and things like that. And there's so many different projects and things that I'm interested in. And we have a long way to go and more wealth to accumulate and people to serve and people to help. But we sacrificed for so long. I decided that I don't need all this extra stuff, or I was willing to take hand-me-downs or free things things, or people, if you're lucky enough to have family that maybe they have an old couch that you can use, or friends, or we go to Salvation Army, or we went on Facebook Marketplace and found things. Like, be willing to make those sacrifices and ask for gift cards if you have people, or see what free things are in your community, or sell things. It can really make a difference, and just sacrifice. And eventually, honestly, for me, I've realized that most of that stuff that I would or could be spending money on doesn't actually make me happy. I'd rather have more time. I'd rather have projects or things that I'm interested in and that I get to do. I'd rather spend a little bit of money on maybe like healthy food or something. And I'd rather just have good people in my life and invest in my family, and just the time is so valuable. And so just be really careful. You can eventually spend more money, but you have to put sacrifice in. And so any successful person will say this, like, you don't need to sacrifice everything. You do need to invest in yourself and your business and your skills and your education and stuff. But at the end of the day, it's not all about looking a certain way, or just because I'm an adult, now I just get to do this. Or even if you have a kid, I have a kid, so I have to get all this stuff for them and this nice stuff, and I deserve this and I need this. You don't. And so look at your habits and say, why am I buying this? Why am I feeling like I need this? Why do I need the nicest stuff? And so just look into that and be willing to sacrifice. Like, to get where you want to be, you have to sacrifice something. All right, to build wealth, you have to have assets. You have to pay yourself first. You have to have things that pay you money. And so an asset can be a job, but it can also, that is something that is not necessarily a guarantee depending on the type of job that you have. And there's a cap on that, right? And so you want to start investing in businesses. You want to start investing in your brand, in online income, there's so many things that you can do, guys. And if you want a video on different assets that you can build, because it's going to be different for everyone. Some people are going to be like, yes, I want to be a content creator. Some people are going to be like, yes, I want to sell my shirts on the internet, or I want to be a coach, or, I want to freelance my engineering services, or I want to have a plumbing business, or whatever. There's so many different things you can do, or be a property manager, or whatever, set up Airbnbs, and there's a lot of stuff, but you really need to have assets in order to build wealth. And so assets could be your investments, and it could be any of those other things as well. 13 is to live below your means. And so you want to save your money, you want to pay yourself first, but you also want to live below your means. This is part of my husband and my ability to be able to make more money. And so when we lived in our places, we spent a very, very small amount on our rent and on the amount of money we spent for like mortgages and stuff every single month. And so we chose to not spend a ton of money, and we could have lived in a nicer area, and maybe we couldn't have, but it wasn't that much of our income. And so they always say, spend less than 30% of your gross annual income. But if you can, spend less than that, or live with other people, or do what you have to do. It's worth the sacrifice early on. It truly, truly is. Next is to set a budget and be aware of the money coming in and out. And so you can be as strict as you want with this, as rigid, or you could be a little more flexible. I know my husband and I, sometimes it's like, all right, we want to contribute this much to this bucket, this bucket, this bucket, this bucket, this bucket. We need to pay for this. We need to pay for this. But then after we take care of those things, we can spend about this much on these things. And then if we have extra money, we can plop that into more investments, or we can spend it on some extra stuff. Or you could have a very rigid, tight budget. It depends on where you are. It depends on your personality. But having a budget, being mindful, being aware, it helps. Like, you don't want to just be blind to your money. I think sometimes, and I've been there before, especially when you join with a partner, it can be a different thing trying to combine finances. I could do a video on this too. And because this is a big problem for a lot of people, thankfully, it has not been an issue in my relationship. I feel super, super grateful. But it can be a big problem. And so making sure that you align and you figure out how to face your finances, and then figure out what to do with them. If you open anything, please open a Roth IRA. I wish I would have known about this sooner. I knew about investing and things like that. You might have heard those terms, or your 401k, but a Roth IRA is critical and is a great wealth building tool. If you only invest in one Roth IRA for your lifetime, you will be a millionaire just by doing that. And it's actually right now $6,500 a year. Or next year in 2024, it's going to be $7,000 a year. So if you invest $7,000 a year, you will become a millionaire. So I can overthink it sometimes, and I can want to invest as much as I can and do this and do that. But really, I would have to stay in the job that I'm doing my whole life, and I wouldn't be able to work on some businesses or have the time that I want, or get to do exactly what I want to do. But that is a way to become a millionaire. And if you have a spouse and if you can invest in two of them, you're going to have multiple millions. And if you start this early, or if your parents started it for you, because you can do it if you're a child and you have a W-2 income, and some people even pay their kids to clean their office and stuff when they're like 1-2 years old, and that could be a $12,000 a year write-off, and it actually is okay with the IRS and with your taxes and with the IRS. You could have that since you're little, and the more time that compounds, you're gonna have a lot of money when you're older. So please look at the Roth IRAs. I do have a video on my channel if you want more information. It's basically a double tax advantage account. You do have to pay taxes before the money goes in, but then it grows tax-free and you can take it out tax-free, which is amazing. All right, money is not a show-off game or a confidence boost. I don't think I ever really used money for that, but I think this is a problem for a lot of people. It can make you feel good, or you feel like you need designer, you feel like you need a nice car, and it's like, you don't really need that. That's kind of like a privileged or an odd way to think. And honestly, it's normal. It happens. It's part of society, especially if you're in a really blessed area or if you're not, you want to try to fit in, or you want to feel a certain way. And so there's ways to have nice stuff, like even thrifting or online shopping and stuff in secondhand stores. Like, you can get really nice stuff for good deals, but you don't have to put on this front, and you don't have to buy things to feel good about yourself. I know it can make you feel good, but there's a lot of other ways to make you feel good. And lastly, I said stuff stinks. You don't need all this stuff. I'd rather have time. I'd rather have choice. I'd rather get to work on passion projects. And that's just me. I do like stuff. Trust me, we do need some stuff. I'm grateful for this iPhone right here. But to be honest, it's not all about that. And so be careful. Minimalism has been a really critical tool and lifestyle guide for me, with clothing, with just all sorts of things. I've really in my 20s have worked on finding who I am and figuring out, what do I want? What has society told me? What has my family told me? But what do I want? What do I align with? And so I really encourage you to do the work and to figure what you want out for yourself. All right, so those were some tips and big lessons that I've learned about money that hopefully can help you. Let me know if you want to know more, but that was just everything I thought about in one session. Was like, boom, these are all the things that I wish I knew. So I hope that at least one of these things is helpful to you. Honestly, all it takes is one thing to totally change your life. One thought, one person, one situation, one idea, one business, one opportunity. And so keep searching for that opportunity. Keep searching for that one thing. I know it will happen for you. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know what takeaways you have, or what you want to do, or what you do, or if you have any tips for anybody else. Feel free to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and share it with a friend who you think it could be helpful to and for. And I will see you in the next video. Keep working. You got this.